Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with Wrestling with Regret with another classic pay-per-view review. And tonight, we got an interesting one. This one's WCW Uncensored 2000, so probably the last of the uncensored pay-per-views. And this one's called Witness, the Yappapi Strap Match. Also, what the hell is a Yappapi? Well, considering this is the year 2000, I don't think we're in for some quality wrestling, but how about are we talking about? Well, wish us luck. We're about to dive into this thing, so be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Wish me luck. Here we go.
It's all coming up on Monday Night Raw.
Is Hulk saying bugger? What is he saying? I don't know.
Well, folks, it's been a minute since I last took a dip in the waters of WCW in the year 2000. Those warm, gooey, algae-ridden, somehow on fire waters of WCW in the year 2000.
We'll be expecting some leeches in there.
The first classic review I did was Super Brawl 2000. I've covered plenty of pay-per-views from that year in the years since I started reviewing shows. But now it's time to finally kind of see what happened after Super Brawl. What is the aftermath as WCW continuously struggles to right that ship as it's heading toward that iceberg in the algae-ridden flaming waters of WCW. Let's talk about Uncensored 2000 from March 19th at the American Airlines Arena in Miami, Florida. This show was nominated by Logan Kelly and Elaine over at patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. This is a very interesting lull point in WCW this year because this is the period of time where Vince Russo is out as head writer. He left in January. He'll be back in April alongside with Eric Bischoff, and that's a whole other story. But here's this weird period in the middle where Kevin Sullivan is booking and trying to, right the ship basically and trying to reconcile what Vince Russo wrote with what he wants to do. But it turns into this big, jumbled, frankly, just uninteresting mess. So where are we at this point creatively? Well, Bret Hart is hurt and not coming back to wrestle. Kevin Nash is the commissioner, and he's currently doing an injured/amnesia storyline where he thinks he's Commissioner Gordon. He's looking for Batman. Scott Hall showed up for the world title match at Super Brawl, and that was his last appearance in the company ever. Scott Steiner's been gone for a bit as well.
The
NWO did do a restart back in January, but then that got totally
the NWO 2000.
Hart's injury. Jeff Jarrett suffered a brief injury at the time as well. And then, of course, with Steiner gone and Kevin Nash doing his amnesia storyline.
So pretty much NWO fell apart.
Now is Jeff Jarrett and the Harris twins, which honestly sounds like
not much NWO there
than they had when they had their revival in WWE in 2002. Meanwhile, Ric Flair and Lex Luger are working together as the unfortunately named Team Package, and frankly, neither man has been more boring as a character in my opinion. These guys and the JJWO are the top heel teams running around in WCW right now, and they are everywhere on these shows, and it is not fun. So our heroes at this point are Hulk Hogan, Sid Vicious, Vampiro, I suppose. He's getting some shots in the more upper card lately, in the absence of so many other baby faces. And Sting has just come back to wage war with Lex Luger, so we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, it's kind of sparse right now in the upper echelon for especially for babyface talent in WCW. Also from watching the TV and
this is getting weird.
I can tell this is the era of cut-off sentences. There are so many times where people are cutting promos either during the show or they'll be walking down the hall getting ready for their match, talking to the camera, cutting a promo, and boom, the camera cuts away to somebody else. Like, what is the focus?
Again, I'm not sure to blame Vince on this, but
very jarring.
By the way, Russo, not
odd production choice.
McMahon.
And speaking of production, I got to give a shout out to whoever designed the day counter for the Uncensored pay-per-view for TV. Days until 6. I saw a few different figures for attendance for this show. I saw 5,000 people one place. I saw 11,000 in another place. I've seen just a hair over 2,500 people reported, and that's what I'm going to go with for this one. The show got 60,000 pay-per-view buys, which is not the worst they would do all year. That would actually go to Starrcade in December. That actually got the lowest buy rate. Meanwhile, at this time in the same month, ECW ran Living Dangerously 2000, and they drew 95,000 pay-per-view buys. Tony Schiavone, Mark Madden, and Mike Tenay are on the call. Thank God Tenay's here.
Poor WCW.
We get an opening hype package, and then we go to the back where we see Team Package make their way to the arena, and Lex Luger just keeps saying, "We're the best." Elsewhere backstage, Hulk Hogan warns him to Watch yourself out there, brother. Sid says not to worry about him.
Thanks.
Blah, blah. Cut to Jarrett and Harris mid-sentence. Jarrett's got surprises
Good
planned.
Lord.
We also see a mysterious black limousine arriving. I've probably said it before on this channel.
Anyone want to
but I'll
bet
say
that's
it
either
again.
Ric Flair or Kevin
The
Nash?
aesthetic of wrestlers like just coming into the arena, like just as the show begins, or worse yet, like several minutes or an hour into a show happening, whether it's TV or pay-per-view. Like, are y'all not familiar with call times? It just seems very unprofessional to me. We begin with a match for the WCW
I'm not sure we can
Cruiserweight
with that
Championship
idea.
as the artist formerly known as Prince Iakea with Paisley in his corner takes on Psychosis, accompanied by Juventud
should be fun.
Guerrera. By the way, I think now's
Guerrera,
the
huh?
appropriate time to
This should be fun.
apologize for the error I made way back in my
Yeah.
Super Brawl 2000 review, where I erroneously said that Prince was bisexual. That was not the case, and I'm glad I got that out of the way now. I wish they gave us more close-ups of this version of the belt when Prince Iakea had it. It looks kind of like a very artist-themed with some more purple and like darker
Kinda does,
lines
yeah.
and stuff, but it felt like on this show
Actually
they're trying to
pretty,
hide
does.
it. You never see a close-up
This is
of
cool.
this belt. And I figure if this is a custom title for the artist character, you should show it off a little bit. Hoovy pouring water on himself during their
they always do
entrance,
show off
despite
the
him not
custom
wrestling
belts. Why
tonight.
not?
Before Psychosis and the artist lock up, Hard Knocks Chris Candido appears, making his WCW debut. Mark Madden
Candido.
on commentary saying, "Oh, the internet rumors are true. Chris Candido's here in WCW." And within like
Oh boy,
a minute,
Henry started
Candido
to
sits
speak.
down and does commentary. He says, "The internet rumors are true. Chris Candido's here in WCW." Like, guys, you should
Like,
probably plan that out
really?
beforehand. I also love seeing Madden clearly indicating to Chris to move his headset mic down, but Chris just totally misses that, so Madden has to physically reach in to adjust
thanks.
it himself. Psychosis with a nice Hurricane Rana in the
Oopsie.
ring, big dive to the outside. Candido on commentary saying that unlike these other jumping beans in the division, he can wrestle. His voice getting higher as the match goes on. His voice
Weird.
honestly sounds a lot to me like Jim Cornette.
Neither of them has gone through the garbage this business that I've gone through, not just this, but my entire life.
Psychosis
Kinda
jumps to the
does
outside.
sound like Cornette,
Paisley
to be
comes up
honest.
him and gives him a look,
Ain't
and a
wrong.
slap just
Oh,
right in front of
ow.
the ref. The artist is on top for a good while.
Again,
here.
uncensored,
Nice
no
comeback
rules.
attempt by Cy, but artist with a good cutoff. We get an amazing top rope Frankenstein
Whoa.
by Psychosis here.
Jeez.
Dropping artist
Nice
face
one.
first with a suplex. Paisley with a distraction
Nasty
again,
fall.
but in comes the juice. Madden screaming cat
Hey,
fight over
gr-
this. Big ass leg drop by Psychosis. He goes to the cover, but then he just gets up, changes position, then gets up again because he's seemingly distracted by Paisley on the outside. But why? She's not
This is
doing anything at
odd.
this point. Lots of awkward pausing. Artist with the jumping
Yeah, hey,
DDT. The win. Wow, that went downhill in a hurry. I give it 2
Yeah,
stars.
no
out of
kidding.
5.
What
I
is
love
happening?
The irony of Chris Candido coming out and on commentary saying, "I'm going to make the cruiserweight division a lot more boring because I don't flip and fly like these other cruiserweights do that everyone's really
I
excited
can wrestle
about."
at least.
But meanwhile, we're watching this kind of boring cruiserweight title match here that he's narrating over. Like, Psychosis holds up his end of the bargain pretty well. He does some high-flying stuff, but Prince Iakea is never much of a high flyer, and so he was one of the more ground-based cruiserweights, and so I'm not really sure what you're trying to prove here, Candido, because the match is doing a good job of that for you.
Ikea.
It's an okay match. That finish was just what was going on there. What was the intended result of what they were going to do? That really made things feel more derailed by the end. Mean Gene.
I mean, yeah, that was just way looking awkward. Again, I'm not sure it was just like someone was not like trying to, work, but you got me, to be honest. I don't know what to think about all that. Like, what the hell? I feel like someone forgot a cue or something, so they were trying to like cover it up, but did a piss poor job at that, to be honest. Oof. So, yeah, I mean, cruiserweight action always great, but this time, not so much. Or them, though. Anyway, we got Bam Bam here. Let's see what's going on.
Backstage with a beast from the East, Bam Bam Bobility. He can't believe what the Wall's been doing lately in WCW. He brought him into the business. He taught him everything he knows in wrestling, and now he's running around crippling people, and Bam Bam says he's going to put a stop to it. Wait a minute, it just dawned on me. Why does WCW have 2 concurrent crippler gimmicks at this point? Because you have
Crippler?
Lex Luger, who runs around, breaks people's arms for months. You have the Wall, who chokeslams people through tables and has broken David Flair and crowbars necks repeatedly. Like, you're going to run out of people to have wrestle if you have these heels just beating up lower and mid-card guys every single week.
We had Owen who did like, I broke your neck.
Team action. Lane and Rave take on Norman Smiley
Rave?
and the Demondale Torborg. Lane and Rave, the former
I think I've
Standards and
seen this back
Practices,
on
and
Marky
before that,
D's
they were the
channel.
former West Hollywood Blondes, a very ambiguously gay duo that got them some flack from GLAAD. They're a couple of party boys
boy.
now, and they're taking on the new odd couple between Smiley and the Demondale Torborg. Here comes Miss Hancock, the future
think they were just
Stacey
called Demon,
Goldberg.
I think,
She used
back
to
in the
work
day.
alongside S&P. Now she just shows up and dances to cost the matches. Mark Madden standing up for Miss Hancock, who's coming to the commentary table, and he goes, "Do you want to sit on my lap, which is, I roll my eyes at that one, because the pause makes you think he's going to say something kind of clever, like, oh, you think he's going to say something dirty, but then he can kind of say, do you want to sit on my chair? And he was actually kind of polite, but no, he just goes, lap, like he didn't know what to say at first. He was expecting to be interrupted and he just wasn't, so he had to follow through with it. That was pretty cringy. Lenny Lane on the mic saying Miss Hancock isn't close to being Rizat material. Why he thought it was a good idea to copy Chris Jericho's hairstyle, I'll never know. I do appreciate the moment of Norman popping out of the Demon-Dale Torborg's entrance casket in the full gimmick. That was pretty funny. There is way too much leather in this match. Also, way too much Madden. Norman with a big ol' slam to Lane. Meanwhile, on commentary, Miss Hancock saying she's interested in shaping the careers of Silver King and El Dandy. Well, who are we to doubt that union? Lane and Rave are looking good until we get the ugliest three-man clothesline spot I've ever seen. Who can save us from this? Norman. He goes on a big run, but it gets cut off. The pin's broken up. All four guys just in the ring at once. Lenny clotheslines himself and Demon-Dale Torborg out of the ring. The Norman Conquest is locked in on Rave. There's the tap. And Smiley and the Demon-Dale Torborg win. The bad guys are getting in Miss Hancock's face and blaming her for the loss somehow, but then Norman and Demon-Dale Torborg cut them off. They bring Hancock back into the ring, and everyone is dancing. I give it 1.5 stars out of 5. I was thoroughly entertained by Norman Smiley in the full Kiss makeup and everything. I think that he really came into his own during this kind of the hardcore champion, the hardcore wrestler gimmick he had, because it was so over the top and goofy, but it really worked for him. It got him super over, and so I will always appreciate wrestling.
His team with Norman actually did help out a lot too.
And they get super over. That is like the template for me, for Norman Smiley. Honestly, this should have been the Demon's last act under this gimmick, because by this point the relationship with WCW and Kiss had totally fallen through. There was really no reason to keep them on anymore. It's hard to really have things for like a branded licensed wrestler and then the plans of like more Kiss themed wrestlers coming in just not coming to fruition. What do you do with him? Like this should have been it. He should have been, okay, he's friends with Norman Smiley, they do the goofy thing, and now you just leave. But no, he's here for the rest of the year as the Demon-Dale Torborg. Backstage, Kidman
honestly, I think I would have told him to drop the Demon gimmick,
on Thunder. Booker doesn't want to hear any of it, and he just wants to make sure that Kidman's got his back tonight. Elsewhere, David Flair and Crowbar both wearing neck braces. David telling Daphne to promise she'll stay away from the ring.
Daphne with red hair, that's a first.
And she reluctantly agrees. So as of late, the Wall has been destroying people left and right in an effort to get himself over.
That's right, the Wall, brother.
Here. He's been putting people in the hospital, including David Flair on his 21st birthday. By the way, I love how they did a stretcher and neck brace job on him after what looked like one of the safest table bumps I've ever seen. But anyway, Bam Bam Bigelow now stepping up for David Flair and Crowbar. He wants to beat up the Wall and teach him a lesson because it's established now that Bigelow brought the Wall in as a protege, and now the Wall's just gone totally rogue. Fists are flying from the opening bell. Wall laying Bammers out with a big clothesline. Bam Bam responds with a big line of his own. Bigelow with a diving headbutt off the top, but it's not enough to put him away. Wall with a big knee lift. Bigelow hits a DDT. Wall with a huge clothesline where they both go over the top rope, but the Wall bump looks super scary. Fighting up the ramp,
that looked like an Enzo bump.
Wall with a choke slam, but not on the WCW monitors. Slam to the table, the sparks fly. Who set up at that crow's nest, by the way? Is that Mean Gene's special throne during the night? The bell rings. I guess the match is thrown out, but here come David Flair and Crowbar. They jump the Wall, but he fights them off.
But no,
they go to the back as Bam Bam's getting put on the stretcher. Even Ed Ferrara's out there, dressed like he just don't care. But wait, Crowbar and the Wall have fought their way up to the top of the set. Wall with a massive choke slam from the top down to the stage below. What a spectacular fall. Huge bump by Crowbar as the fans chant, jump, jump to the Wall. I give this one 1 star out of 5.
Are they trying to get rid of them by telling them to jump?
Angle disguised as a match, so you won't be getting a lot of like in-depth wrestling in this one. It's just more to sell a story. So you got this like decent big man fight before it turns into a big schmoz. I think it's just funny that in a show like Uncensored, which is supposed to be like, oh, and all the rules are out the window and everything, but we still have so many matches like with rules, I guess. Like interference is such a weird, fluid thing on this show and in the company at this time. But the fact they had this like, I guess, double count out or a DQ finish for this match on this show, I thought was kind of funny. It's kind of like when the Extreme Rules pay-per-views have so many matches with no stipulations. So like, what is extreme about it? Again, Crowbar's fall off the set was spectacular, but it was the only real memorable thing about this segment. We get the big stretcher job with lots of wrestlers and other onlookers for Crowbar and Bam Bam. Shivani saying, Uncensored has come to a stop. And then just right away he goes, let's go to Mean Gene backstage. Well, which one is it? Gene is backstage.
Come on, guys.
Knobs putting over Bigelow and Crowbar and their toughness. this, saying he's dedicating his match to them tonight. We go to that now. It's a hardcore gauntlet match. Keep that phrasing in mind, a hardcore gauntlet match for the Hardcore Championship, as Knobs challenges the defending champs 3 Count. You heard me. A few weeks ago on Nitro, all 3 members of 3 Count covered Knobs to win the belt, and they're all sharing it now as co-champions, literally 2 months after Chyna and Chris Jericho did the same thing with the Intercontinental Championship. Knobs has got to beat all 3 members of the group to win back the title here. Shane Helms is wearing a face mask to protect a broken nose. That looks nice.
That explains a lot.
Knobs is one of the many people you'll see tonight with a cast on his arm. More on that later. He frantically searches for his hardcore plunder before he has to run all the way to the back to get it. The young lads all leap down on Knobs and whomp him with weapons before Knobs fights back. It is called a gauntlet, but it is not booked that way. A gauntlet traditionally is you wrestle one guy, you beat him, the next guy comes in, you beat him. But no, this is
so now it's a 3-on-1 handicap now.
Shane with the best counter all night. He blocks Pity City with his mask and is able to take him down. They grab a ladder, and all 3 guys take turns doing big old dives onto Knobs. Shannon Moore with a swanton. They say he missed, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I think he got it that time.
Back up and sprays him with a fire extinguisher. Broom to chair to face. Helms is eliminated, but Brian's music plays for a bit. Madden with his best line of the night. Someday, someone's going to look under that ring, and there won't be a table there, and they're not going to know what to do. Knobs powerbombing Evan Courageous from the ring to the outside through a table, and Evan's out. Knobs holding Shannon Moore, but Shane with a missile dropkick into them, splats onto a table. It doesn't break.
Did not break.
The foot clearly on the ropes. The 3 count for 3 count, but Nick Patrick waves it off immediately and restarts the match. What a fucking cursed match this is.
How do you see this?
Knobs flattens Shannon with a trash can and his own body to win the match and regain the hardcore title. Shivani wraps us up with a bow by saying, "What a series of bumps that was." What? Why would you say that? I give this one 2 stars out of 5 because on the one hand, I loved it. On the other hand, I hated it. I love the fact that 3 Count and Knobs did a really good job like selling and bumping for each other. I think what they actually did in the ring, the nuts and bolts of it, was pretty well done. But there are so many errors in this matchup. There's botches, there's technical mistakes, there's referee mistakes, Brian Knobs, the whole idea of any of these wrestlers being able to work flawlessly with a cast, like a broken arm, and everything, but they're still able to work the exact same.
I'm guessing Lex Luger there, considering he's been breaking arms, I think.
By the end, I'm like, this is so unbelievably stupid. But there were some things about it I did like, so I have to put it in the kind of 2-star range for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be real, it's not that bad. I think it just fell off in a way. I don't know if, like, he was trying to sell the broken arm thing, which, fair. I think he said earlier in the review that Lex was doing, like, arm breaks, considering, like you said, a lot of people were doing, like, breaker gimmicks, Lex, Jared, I think, and, well, the Wall, like he mentioned earlier. At least that's what I'm trying to remember, but I'm not too sure if I'm right or wrong, but can you guys let me know if I'm a little off? But anyway, Harlem Heat 2000's here.
Gene is backstage with a
there's Stevie, there's
Stevie Ray,
Ahmed,
Big T, formerly Ahmed Johnson, Cash, and their attorney, the former Clarence Mason, Jay Biggs. And yes, that is a mighty coincidence. Stevie Ray calls his opponent and tells Kidman to bring his squack. Big T shouts that the heat is on! Elsewhere backstage, the limo's still here, and Vampiro thinks about things. Boy, is he a shit promo or what?
It just starts to make me think about things, and I get ashamed, and because I just think about really bad things and doing really violent, mean things.
Up next, Kidman and Booker take on Harlem Heat 2000. Booker is just Booker at this point. He does not have
lost the rights to the T.
Stevie Ray beat him in a match at Super Brawl for the rights to the Harlem Heat name, the likeness, the music, the tag team championship lineage, and the T in Booker T. He gave it to Ahmed Johnson. He is now Big T. Then there's this other huge dude named Cash, short for Cassius. It's alluded to he is somebody from Booker and Stevie Ray's past, but it's never really expanded on beyond that as far as I can tell. But that is what Harlem Heat looks like at the moment.
Man, I gotta say, Vince has Russo has a hard time just like following things through,
within just a few months of this, Booker is going to be in a totally different direction and trajectory, but for right now, he's at this very low point. Biggs joins commentary and...
sorry if I'm bringing up Vince Russo again, but I feel like even though he tries to give everyone like a story, he doesn't really think these things through and be like, okay, how do we progress these things? Like, a lot of the times, they're either like interrupted or just flat out stops. I'm just saying that, and then I don't really explain it all. Like he said, Cash being someone for Booker's past, but like he said, we don't know anything beyond that. Like, come on, Vince, what are you doing? And I know 2000s, I think this ain't the best time of Vince Russo's life. I mean, the dude kind of stopped going to wrestling thing for a while until Ring of Glory and TNA, so yeah. Rough time for Vince, to be honest. Ouch. I mean, like you said, if I was Vince, I'd probably take some time to think, okay, I'd probably do like flowcharts to see, okay, how can we progress this and see what we can do with it, you know? At least that's how I would do it. But anyway, moving along, back to the match.
It says it's time for Harlem Heat to be redeemed here tonight and is adamant that Booker will betray Kidman somehow in this match. There is a big can they coexist vibe in the build of this thing between Booker and Kidman, as we saw the last week on TV. Stevie Ray is knocked around. Big T takes some hits as well. Cash tries to get in the ring, but he takes
T had a hard time moving around lately.
Not sell. Referee misses the tag. Kidman is picked out of the sky by Stevie. On the outside, Big T goes over the barricade so he can leap back over it and tackle Kidman.
Yeah, that barely hit at all.
Kidman avoids an attack in the corner, hits a big bulldog out of there and makes the hot tag to Booker. Bookend to Big T, then one to Stevie Ray. Booker is hit with a double team move. Big T with a very cocky pin, but Kidman makes a save, redeeming himself here. Collision between Stevie and Cash on the outside. Kidman with the sunset flip on Big T. Booker with the kick, the cover, and the win. I give it 2.5 stars out of 5. I think it is the best match of the night, but considering it's just a mid-card match with a bunch of guys who are basically spinning their wheels at this point, that's not saying much. I do like the story that Kidman and Booker told in this one. Kidman proving to Booker that he had his back. You know, that was really cool to see come to fruition here. And I think that Booker, even though he's at a weird place where he lost his identity and his music and everything, he's not the Booker T we know him as here. He's still in a really good point or good position to like do better and recover, because he's still winning most of his matches against Stevie and the rest of the new Harlem Heat. And so, you know, by mid-year, when he finally is put in that main event spot, it won't feel like a huge shift. It will be like, a natural kind of progression from this like rock bottom point. Falls Count Anywhere matchup next as Finley takes on Vampiro. Vampiro is a rising mid-card babyface at this point in WCW. He had a big moment in
Starrcade. We've seen in like Bash at the Beach. Doubt it.
Oklahoma in a handicap match. He's been doing okay for himself. He's kind of been labeled as like he's a freak, but he's a freak people like. And you know, it's very much Undertaker? Reminiscent of kind of Raven when he was around. So it's kind of that same kind of hole that Vampiro has been pegged in for this one. I don't know why we're getting this match though, because like Vampiro has been getting some moments in the main event scene, kind of aligning himself with Sid Vicious at times. But like, meanwhile, like Finley is in a team with Brian Knobbs, last I checked, and like, don't those guys have Al Green as the dog licking water out of a toilet bowl to worry about? It doesn't matter to me if you're some karate or a human dog. Finley and Vampiro each rocking the arm casts. We have back and forth strikes to start things off. Vamp coming down with a top rope spinning heel kick. We get a series of kicks by Vampiro. Finley gets the boot up and takes over. Fit wants to place a chair on Vampiro's face, but the referee intervenes for some reason. That allows Vampiro to take over. Fighting on the outside, making their way up into the stands, and these fans are freaking out. I did think it was going to be hilarious if Sting was under that Sting mask. Fighting in the concourse area, they tease going into the women's bathroom, but just as Tony Schiavone says, they're going in the women's restroom, they stop themselves and go to the men's instead.
There you go.
Vampiro climbing into another guy's stall to jump off the door, and he eats a trash can in midair. Out the bathroom they go. The screen is blood red all of a sudden. I think it's a white balance issue, because when they go out for a second, the skyline looks pretty clear. They tease a balcony spot and they fight with the crowd again. Back body drop on the
can someone fix the red here?
We see a fan shove a security guard to the ground.
Jesus.
Vampiro hits nail in the coffin and covers on the floor for the win. It's a cool moment after the match where fans are all pumped up and they're surrounding Vampiro. Kind of a man of the people moment, very reminiscent of DDP. It's just too bad we don't see that through the rest of this year. I think it was an okay brawl, kind of a bit of a crowd control issue at the end, which kind of made things confusing. And also the
considering that security guard, poor dude. We got some cop. At least some hazard pay for that. Ouch.
But besides that, as far as the brawl, it was good for what it was. Jeff Jarrett backstage with the Harris brothers plotting, and then elsewhere, Mean Gene's the tag team champions,
the Mamalukes.
Mamalukes, and their manager of champions, Disco Inferno. Disco says some words. Big Vito says they're walking out of Miami as winners. Johnny the Bull wraps up by saying they're going to break some thumbs tonight. In a no DQ match for the tag team championships that I'm pretty sure is heel versus heel, you have the Mamalukes defending against the NWO's Harris Twins. Now Disco Inferno's joined the commentary team. We get a lot of razzing between he and Mark Madden during the match. It's so fun. The match begins, and one of the first things we see is Ron or Don hitting Johnny the Bull and both men going down.
Again, Harris Twin 1, Harris Twin 2.
Johnny the Bull jumps over the rope and almost trips trying to get at Ron or Don. The Mamalukes hit their own version of the Harris's H-bomb finisher on Ron or Don, but then Don or Ron with a cheap shot on the apron, allowing Ron or Don to take over. The Twins beat down on Johnny the Bull using some double team tactics, and the referee's back is turned, but Bull is able to find an opening. He tags in Vito, who's all over the Harris Twins. He goes up top, hits a top rope elbow
on the one.
Kick out, kind of a rough version of the heart attack, and the cover is broken up. Big slam to the front, big slam to the back. Ron or Don fights a sunset flip. Disco with a belt shot. That's a little Scott Hall dance, only a 2. Disco tries again, but now the Harrises are beating everyone up with the belts. Why didn't they try that in the first place? H-bomb onto Vito. The Harrises win the tag team titles. I give it 2 stars out of 5. It was a fairly decent match. I thought, except for a couple
so far
of
it's usually 1 or 2.
Mamalukes were like rushing and had happy feet to get to the next thing. I think it was a fairly competent match. But then again, it's that heel versus heel dynamic, and I talked about in my Rumble 01 review how hard it is to pull off a heel versus heel matchup, especially if people genuinely don't like either side of the heel versus heel thing. If there's nothing redeeming about them, then the fans are going to shit all over it regardless. And so especially with the Harris Twins being part of the NWO and the Mamalukes being associated with Disco Inferno, it's just like, why do we care about this match? Finlay backstage demanding some promo time. He admits that the better man won tonight and tells Vampiro to keep the fire burning. Elsewhere, Mean Gene's with Team Package. Luger saying he's going to beat up Sting and knock some of his teeth down his throat. Ric Flair putting Luger over and saying that Hulk Hogan will bleed and sweat all night long. Team Package, Team Package. Up next, a bull rope match as the American Nightmare, Dustin Rhodes
not Cody,
Terry
sorry.
Funk. Dustin Rhodes, man of many belt buckles, has turned on the old man, and there's lots of bad blood between the Rhodes and the Funk families. It's now bubbling to the surface here. Terry with one of the best comebacks of all time. He puts a diaper on a raw chicken and throws the chicken at Dustin's head. What an amazing Nitro moment this was. Honestly, top 10 for me. Before the match, Mean Gene with Dustin Rhodes, who says this will be Terry's retirement match, but he won't get a watch, but he will watch himself get beaten bloody by Dustin. On stage,
how would he even do that?
The chicken once again. He introduces who he calls Dustin's baby brother, but it's not Cody. It's a guy in a chicken suit. Chicken noises play over the PA as Dustin chases him around the ring, then gets pelted with the raw chicken. Terry on top at first, and hearing Dustin yelling, "Stop it!" as he's getting whipped is pretty funny.
So I'm guessing Terry here is calling Dustin, a yellow belly coward, the whole chicken.
Dustin with the cowbell. Dustin clotheslining Funk with the rope and takes over. Dustin finally places the rope around he and Terry's wrists and puts on the hurt. Bulldog with cowbell assist. The chicken's back in the ring for some reason, but he gets dinked with the bell. Madden yelling, "Kill the chicken!" as Funk crosses Dustin on the rope. Terry grabs the mic and says, "I've changed the rules. It's an I quit match now." The referee tries to stop him, and Funk yells, "You're full of shit," and decks him with a cowbell. Multiple dinks.
Did he actually say that? The whole
Dustin say he quits, but that's not the match rule. Dustin laying into the Funker with the bell multiple times. The pile driver, the cover, and Dustin wins. After the bell, Dustin says
nice try, Terry.
Funk back home in a box and continues the beating, but the Funker chases him off. I give it 2 stars out of 5. This one's graded on a curve. It gets the high marks it gets because of the use of the raw chicken and Terry yelling, "You're full of shit," before he hits the referee. Those were honestly the highlights for this one for me. Nij Neem is...
Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure the whole, chicken thing was the yellow belly coward thing, or at least the insult. Like I said, I don't know much about Southern slang, even though I live down here, so like I said, I don't really hear it that much. I think it's a country thing, and I'm not country, I'm suburb. Anyway, you've got Sid back.
Is backstage with world champ Sid Vicious. What do you think Jeff Jarrett's got up his sleeve? Sid says he would expect nothing less from Jarrett to pull something stupid like this, but he's watching his own back. Well, hey, we're getting
How?
this match 2 reviews in a row, 8 years apart. Aren't I lucky? It is a lumberjack cast match as the total
Cast
package
match?
Lex Luger takes on the man called Sting.
Called Sting.
Way back at Starrcade, Lex Luger beat the
yeah, it
Stinger,
was
who
right.
broke Sting's
Whole
arm
arm
with
break.
a chair, then broke a lot more arms after that. What terrible working conditions do you have in this company where one guy can break half the roster's arms, get no punishment for it, but everyone's got to come back to work the next week wearing a big old cast on their arm? Oh, but they're still able to work perfectly fine with those broken arms, so I guess it's all cool.
Yeesh.
So after all that, Sting finally comes
Because
back.
it wasn't that much of a break.
For months, and he's coming for revenge. I love Luger's trepidation here during the entrance, being surrounded by all of his enemy lumberjacks and trying to flex.
He's like,
he doesn't want to
"Oh,
face
shit."
the hard cam because he's afraid he's going to
Look
get
how much
jumped.
he's sweating.
He tries to apologize.
Hasn't even
to
started the
everyone
match yet, he's so
last minute and brings
sweating.
out his lumberjacks. Now here are some heels in new casts of their own. I will say, Luger as a wrestler, no matter what era he is in, to me will always be one of the most dull, boring things. But I kind of unironically love like heel Luger as a character because
Really?
he's such a chicken shit. He's so like full of himself, yet so
Chicken
insecure
shit.
at the same
Ouch,
time
dude.
in a lot of ways. And I think the way he tries to like talk his way out of jams is really entertaining. It's why I liked he and Buff Bagwell in like
yeah, Totally Buff
2001
from,
when they were a tag
2001,
team,
yeah.
because like they're so funny when they're these big buff dudes and they're
Fire,
such
fire,
cowards.
fire,
It's so
fire,
hilarious.
fire.
Luger jumping
Remember that?
Sting
Oh.
mid-entrance. He powders to his own lumberjacks for a moment, but Sting throws him out to the babyface lumberjacks right after.
Get 'em, boys.
They get to stomping, including head of security Doug Dillinger, which Shivani totally
Doug
marks out
Dillinger?
for. Sting getting the
Really?
same treatment from Luger's lumberjacks. Here comes Tank Abbott. He walks up and lays out Dillinger, then he leaves. The Jacks brawl their
Okay,
way up the
that was
ramp,
just
they're
out of
no longer
nowhere.
a factor, save for Vampiro, who's still there. Then out comes Ric Flair, who fights Vampiro. Flair just gets in the ring and goes for Sting now, who stings up. Stinger splash, but Elizabeth
Just
decks Sting with the ball bat. Vampiro takes the bat out of her hand. Jimmy Hart threatens to hit her with Hogan's weight belt as they leave. Sting
Okay,
kicks
bye.
out. Luger goes for the rack. Vampiro comes in and hits Luger in the ribs with the ball bat. I
Well, in
can't
the
tell if
back.
Charles Robinson is meant to be seeing all this or not. Scorpion death
Again,
drop, and
uncensored, why
Sting
not?
wins. Sting and Vampiro share a cool moment in the ring. They become somewhat of a tandem after this, but it does not last long. What a goofy
No.
match this is. I give it 1.5 stars out of 5, which makes it actually worse than their title match they had back in '92. I think Sting and Luger were okay in this match. It would have been an okay singles match, but it was dragged down so much by all of the crap with the lumberjacks and Tank Abbott getting involved and Vampiro and Flair and Liz and Jimmy Hart. It's just bonkers. It really made the match just really unenjoyable to watch by the end. But Tank Abbott,
Sounds
why
right.
did you attack Doug Dillinger? He says, because Dillinger's in the computer. He's a participant. You gonna take his money? He's just a lumberjack. Would you take my money now? I don't think so. What? Is anyone really breaking down the door for a feud between Tank Abbott and head of security Doug Dillinger? Abbott's the guy Vince Russo thought could be WCW championship material. They make a big deal of the fact they've changed the order
Maybe
of the
should have
last
given
two
him a
matches.
manager.
I won't tell you why
Would've
they
helped.
did that. We go to the WCW Championship match as Sid Vicious defends against Jeff Jarrett.
Who's the US
Jeff
title?
Jarrett has all the stroke around here in WCW and is horribly
Raising?
overexposed as a result. He was in the world title match at Super Brawl alongside Scott Hall, but Scott took the pin. Jarrett claims to be a victim of WCW's political machinations, but he hasn't.
He thought he was overexposed here. Check out TNA.
Another world title
Oof.
match against Sid that he made Kevin Nash sign while he was presumably knocked out, but we don't see that actually happen though. He's the last man standing in NWO Silver and Black. He's got the Harris twins. He's got the NWO ladies. By the way, I think it's so funny that Jarrett so frequently at this point in his career was surrounded by beautiful women, like whether it was the NWO ladies or it was Deborah and Miss Kitty in the WWF, always surrounded by these beautiful women, but he was the most like asexual gimmick of all time. And what I mean by that is like he never presented himself as a ladies man or as a matinee idol. He just like, he didn't even seem to like these women he was with either. He just kind of yells at them most of the time. It's all these different gimmicks they would just throw on
Harsh,
Jarrett
but
to try and
kinda
make
fair,
him
in a way.
something that he wasn't, because whereas the sunglasses, the guitar, the women, it was just one of those things where, you know, he's a great worker and he has a good look, but the character always failed to connect. And I feel it was really exacerbated here in WCW. This is where the animosity that fans had for Jeff Jarrett for years really got its beginning, as far as I could tell as a fan watching this, because, you know, he had a lot of promo time. He was constantly being
Again,
overexposed.
dude,
The man was
might wanna watch him in
overexposed. He had
TNA.
title shot
He had a
after
reign of
title shot
terror.
after
That was
title shot.
bad.
Fans just did not care about him enough to really like put put him in that position, he was essentially mid-card for life in WWF, and he was much of the same way in WCW. So it did feel kind of put upon and kind of forced when he was put in that upper echelon. Only recently, that animosity seems to have gone away because Jarrett's not really in a position of power anymore, and it's like the less is more kind of thing. Like, people will appreciate him more because he's been here for so long, and what's old is new again, and that's why people pop whenever times it throws an old school Memphis punch, because no one throws punch like that anymore. So people have come around to appreciate Jarrett now in the current time of 2023, but this is the beginning of a long period of time where people just hate him. Jarrett on the mic before the match complaining that WCW has tried to screw him over time and time again, but tonight he will achieve his destiny and win the world title. He also promises the NWO ladies will show some skin and put on a show, but only if he wins the gold tonight. Well, that's one way to get fans to cheer for the heel, I guess. Sid is on the attack from the get-go. He sends Jarrett to the outside, even slams on the announce table. Sid doing an axe handle and slips on the water puddle he just created on the floor. Fighting goes to the crowd up to the stage area. The Harris brothers run in and beat up Sid, which the announcers completely no-sell. The attitude is just, yeah, well, it's just to be expected, I guess. There's no indication this is a no DQ match, by the way. Jarrett with the big sleeper locked in. We get 2 arm drops, but Sid fights back. He intercepts the flying axe handle attempt. Jarrett and the Harrises try more chicanery with the belt, but it backfires. Sid covers and we get a 2 count. The chokeslam countered into Dick Kick City. Jarrett hits Nick Patrick, first lightly, then heavily. In comes the guitar, the El Kabong, but now what? Here comes crooked referee Slick Johnson to make the count. But wait, it's Hulk Hogan coming in early to deprive the fans of an actual entrance for him so he can beat up Jarrett and lay Sid on top of him for the win. Way to make the champ look strong, brother. I give it 1.5 stars out of 5.
Man.
This match was okay.
Worse than WWF now here. They cannot escape Hogan's shadow sometimes. I swear to God.
In a lot of stipulation matches, it makes up for in fuck finishes and run-ins and screwy stuff at the end. Because almost every match has that here. And I think that what we had at the end with Hogan running in, basically, jumping his entrance, jumping his match to do all the dirty work for Sid and help the champion win like that, I don't think it was good for anyone involved. Suddenly in comes Scott Steiner, who we haven't seen for 2 months. He El Kabongs Hogan and just leaves. Some insurance policy. Was he the one in the limo, or was Slick Johnson in there, or was it both? We never really find out. If Steiner were the insurance policy, wouldn't it have made sense for him to interfere before the final bell rang? Sid fights off the Harrises and Hogan is laid out. In comes Ric Flair, also with no entrance, and now I guess it's time for the main event. But first, we gotta talk about how we got here. The night after Super Brawl, Flair and Luger beat up Hogan and his good buddy Jimmy Hart. Then it was after that show, and they play this the next week on Nitro. We get the famous challenge by Hogan for the Yappapi Indian strap match, dude, brother. Yappapi. Box Flair in contractually for this match. Really? And you never know if the Hollywood side's gonna come out in this match.
Is that where that kid's from?
Jimmy Hart in the proper position for the strapation dudes.
Strapation?
Raw, pink meat.
The legacy of the two Yappapi promos that Hogan cut here is truly legendary. It transcends this god-awful show. Thanks to
so weird to say,
Botchamania over the years, Yappapi lives on forever. And I tell you what, these promos, it's honestly the best part of this whole thing, because the match ain't so good. Jimmy Hart makes his way to the ring as the match begins. They fight outside the ring for a long time. Back in the ring, Hogan finally hits Flair with a strap, though not nearly as hard as he showed off in those promos. Where is the splitting, burning, crackling, and peeling flesh? Now Flair gets to
it's Hogan's exaggerating.
Pulls the strap back in Hogan's mouth for a while. Hogan gets a turn with the strap.
There's the sidebars there.
Corner punches for the second time in this matchup, and it bites a forehead. More punches. Flair is now bleeding as the match has slowed down
who's the heel
more
here?
than before. Flair goes up top, is predictably thrown off. On the outside, Jimmy Hart's given the chance to whip Flair a few times. Fighting up to the stage, Flair begs off again. In comes Lex Luger, who dinks Hogan in the head with a steel chair. The brawling continues around the ring with Flair on the offensive. Hogan bleeding now as well. Flair just punches Hogan in the ball. His commentary reminds us that we think the object of this match is to touch all 4 corners before your opponent does. Jimmy Hart gets involved once again on Flair. He gets squacked in the face for his efforts. After like 10 minutes, we finally get our first instance of corners being touched. Flair spends ages trying to unhook Hogan from the ropes. Before an object goes right to Hogan's jaw. Why is he trying to hide it? Flair goes for a pinfall. Why? Then Hogan hulks up.
What is going on here?
He goes to touch the corners. Luger shows up again, is immediately ejected. The leg drop, the cover, the 3 count. Guys, what are we doing? Hogan then remembers to touch the 4th turnbuckle to super duper win, I guess. And that's how we end the show. I give it 1 star out of 5. It's Hogan and Flair, which we've seen 100 times before this. Rinse and repeat. It feels really no different to me. But this finish and the strap just made it 10 times worse by the end.
No
Because you've
kidding.
got this confusion about the corners touching, and we have pinfall attempts, and they just kind of forget, they lose the plot, and then you have the pinfall cover, oh, then I'm going to touch the 4th turnbuckle. Like, what are we even doing here? There's no 0-star matches or negative star matches on this one, but it is just an overall blah, kind of bad, boring show for most of it, and then the last 2 matches happen and bring down the whole rest of the vibe and experience. Like, this whole show is just a series of tiny train wrecks. Every match has at least one thing going for it where it's like, oh my God, this is horrifying, or some kind of head-scratching booking decision, or just some botch that completely derails what they were trying to do. And then the last 2 matches completely blow that all out of the water with like a little bit of everything. Because you've got like confusing finishes, you got run-ins on run-ins, Scott Steiner comes in for 10 seconds and leaves. Just so much confusion, and that transition from the semi-main to the main event was just really awkward as well. This is just like not a good show, and this is just the story.
Yeah, definitely
of
a boring one, to be
WCW
honest.
in the year 2000. But there's part of it you can't really blame them for, because they're in this state of huge flux, because Vince Russo is gone and so many stars are gone. Like Brett's gone, all the radicals are gone. So a lot of your mid-card, your good solid workers are all gone. Lots of other top guys are gone for the time being, or they show up, or you're never going to see them again. And so it's like they're really kind of struggling. They're flailing to make things work. But no one here is in a good position to succeed. And that is the general vibe that I got from watching this show. Maybe it's not a shock that ECW did better business at this time than WCW, because they were in this creative free fall and downward spiral. Eric Bischoff would soon be brought back into the fold to work alongside a returning Vince Russo. Then we get the Great Championship reset, and then the rest of 2000 in general. This show is bad, and it's boring, and by all means should be avoided. But next week is the beginning of March, and with that we go back to reviewing classic WrestleManias. This year my theme, or my thread of Mania, is going to be a little different here. I am going to cover that period of time between the New Generation and the Attitude Era. So I'm doing numbers 12, 13, and 14, beginning next week with my review of WrestleMania 12, which of course has the Iron Man match with Bret and Shawn. But until then, folks, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.
So we got WrestleMania 12 next time. That ought to be fun. Anyway, so there you go. Wrestling with Regret for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. And until next time, like, subscribe for more. See ya.